Hi, good evening, everybody. What a week, what a couple of days it's been for Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur is back. The Phoenix from the Flames, back from the brink. Tonali and Fernandes signed for Spurs in what's turning out to be a dream summer with 6 signings in 17 days of the window opening. What exactly is possible next season with or under De Zerbi? This is going to be discussed and much more in today's action-packed episode. Welcome to Scarfey Spurs Talk. We are an award-winning Tottenham podcast, today hosted by me, Philip King, in absence of Harry Scarfe, who is actually at an awards ceremony tonight. So good luck over there, Harry. I've had the privilege and the pleasure of hosting this once before, I think last year. So I'm going to try and do I'm going to try and do a better job than last time. So keep your fingers crossed. I'm actually a Spurs fan of about 35 years Spurs supporting years, based over in Germany now. Grew up in the UK, been over here for about 15 years now. Actually on the board of a German Tottenham Hotspur official supporters club. So we're trying to really grow the Spurs brand and the Spurs supporter base over here in Germany, which is going well, and it's certainly going to be helped by this massive boost of amazing news over the last couple of days, and indeed over the last couple of weeks, really, since the end of the season, since that great evening in Paris. So today we have got a great panel on, actually. A couple of returning guests as well, which is always good to see. So yeah, good evening, Dustin. How are you, my friend?
All right, how are you? It's
Absolutely.
2 a.m. in Singapore, but with you never know when you're gonna miss a late night bomber.
Absolutely, and absolutely fair play for the commitment, Dustin. You're always obviously on a crazy hours compared to us here in Europe as well. So yeah,
All of you are getting a taste of what I normally go through during the World Cup.
that's gonna be us, all of us England fans. I think on Sunday. Well, it's really Monday, isn't it? It's like about 2:00 in the morning. I think the England-Mexico game. So I'm sure that Monday is going to be quite interesting in many workplaces, I would say, in the UK, to be honest. Also welcoming Mark on tonight as well. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, good. Hi, Phil. Hope you're doing well. Obviously, send in best wishes and good luck to Harry tonight at his awards. Pleased to be joining you this evening. I feel like I'm living in some sort of like AI simulation at the moment. Just doesn't really feel real, does it? Every time I'm looking at my phone, we're linked with another top player. We're breaking transfer records. This is not the Tottenham Hotspur that we all know at the moment. So long may this continue. But this has been a really, really exciting couple of weeks for Spurs, and looking forward to diving into some of those conversations.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, Mark. And then last but not least, Travis. Trav, been a long time, man. How you doing?
Evening all, how you doing? Yeah, good to be back on. It's been a good while. That's for sure. Being on the Scarfy Spurs talk. I'm in dreamland at the moment, as I suppose we all are with the incomings of Tonali and Fernandes and the rest of the players that we've just signed. Just want to do a big shout out to Harry on his awards night tonight, and just a massive well done for his 60-day challenge walk to raise money for autism awareness, which is absolutely massive, and he's a huge credit and asset in what he does to himself, his family, his friends, and everything else. So, yeah, big up, Harry. Good luck tonight, and looking forward to the show.
Yeah, I'll second all of that. Amazing work done by Harry as always on that. Fantastic job, and just for such a fantastic cause as well. Before we get into the kind of discussion, I just wanted to also give a shout out to the partnership, or a partnership that we have here at Scarfey's Spurs Talk. If you're looking for a place to actually discuss Tottenham with fellow supporters, please check out Everything Spurs on Discord. It's actually run by a friend of the channel, Wheelsy. And it's actually a community of over 11,000 members with active match day discussion, transfer news, debates, and a lot of football chat every day, which I'm sure you can imagine with 11,000 members. So if you want to get involved and check it out, you'll find the invite link in the description, or you can simply head to discord.gg/COYS in your web browser. I've actually gone on there as well. It looks absolutely fantastic. So yeah, just a shout out to that. And yeah, obviously it's run by Willsey, who does a lot for the channel as well. So good stuff. So cracking on. Where do we start? It's been not just one night of Bomber news. It's been multiple nights of Bomber news. I think 2 in a row, right? Could it be a third in a row? I don't know. Let's see if anything breaks tonight. But I don't think there's going to be anything breaking. But you never know right now in this new ENIC 2.0 Spurs 2.0 situation at the moment. So let's see. But we're going to crack straight onto the first Bomber that was confirmed 2 days ago, which is obviously the signing of Mateus Fernandes, which has been rumored for I think the last couple of weeks. You know, there were a lot of rumors, right, on X, online. There were a lot of differing kind of posts being put out there in terms of who's interested in him. He wants to go to United. He prefers United. And then, you know, there was a lot of stuff saying that actually it's a kind of an open race and the person or the team who bids the most money for him probably will end up getting him. Man City were rumoured at some point to have an interest, and as has come out after the signing, Real Madrid had a fairly concrete interest as well at some point. But obviously they realised and they looked at their squad, and I think they have other options in there as well. And by all accounts, Fernandes actually wanted to stay in London and wanted to stay in the UK, in the Premier League as well. But yeah, amazing news. The fact that we actually did that transfer, that Bomber was released, was probably a massive surprise to probably 99% of the Spurs fan population still, despite us dreaming as always. You know, until we get these things over the line, we just kind of tend to, I don't know, sometimes just not expect it, right? Because our hopes have been dashed so many times in the past. I'm going to kick off with you, Dustin. What are you like? Give me your overall feelings and thoughts. Number one, when you saw the Bomber announcement, and also like, how do you see this signing in terms of our squad, in terms of the team, and potentially also in terms of elevating Tottenham?
I think we all had our hopes up when we, finished quite a lot of business before the World Cup even started. So we're like, oh, okay, it seems like things have changed. But I think we also were balancing that against the fact that, Senesi was a free transfer, Dubravka. I mean, like, it felt like good business, good that we got it early, but still in the category of kind of opportunistic, not extremely high cost signings. I think Jean-Paul Van Hecker was one indication where, Levy complained, oh yes, they've had their pants pulled down there. But, if this is what pants pulled down looks like, I'm going pants free the entire transfer window, because we're finally kind of reinforcing areas that we need, and we're not fussing about the details of the signing until the last day of the, after the season started and the manager's not had pre-season to work with his players. So I think given the context, we were all justifiably cautiously optimistic, and the length of the time that the Tonali and Fernandes signings went on, we were like, oh, it's starting to feel more like Morgan, Gibbs White and Eze. So when the signing actually did go through, we were like, oh, they actually do mean business this time. In context, I think that for the signings, probably Fernandes is the signing that we truly needed. Tonali is a great signing as well. He's a good player. He will easily slot in as the best midfielder in that position. Although it is a position where we are overstocked in, and we are already seeing the effects of that with Bergvall looking to move. I think that between the number 8s that we have, or people that play in that position, at least Sa, Bergvall, and I don't know what happens to Gray, but we've spent long enough kind of hoping for youth to come to fruition. And I think that the fact that we're signing not just prem proven, but peak players, not post peak players, but players in their peak, I think that it's very much a change in the tack that we've been taking, where previously we were signing kids that Danny Rose would have had to Google, and now we're signing players that everyone knows what they do. Fans from other clubs are saying, oh, they're never gonna sign him. It'll be like taking candy from a baby, and then people bookmarking the tweet to retweet that against that. Very exciting that we've actually got these across the line, and I think that the talks about being in the race for Junior Kroupi are other areas where we can look forward to more bombers in the future. I think it's a bit sad that if you think about how we look at the lineup now, and what we need is a top class striker and left winger, considering that Son and Kane left the club in recent seasons. If we had done this when they were still around, we wouldn't have had to pay whatever we need to pay, but maybe we wouldn't have the money. But well, we'll see.
Thanks, Dustin. That's a great point that you made there about the left winger and the striking situation. For so many years we were blessed, weren't we, with utter world class in both of those positions, and we probably, in some ways, maybe didn't even appreciate it all of the time, that we had pretty much greatness in those roles. And it is such a shame that I say under the previous regime, I know it's pretty much the same regime, but things have changed. Daniel Levy's not there anymore. Joe Lewis's children, his kids, are essentially the people now running, ruling the roost, let's say. And it is a shame that we did not see this level of investment right at the end of the day. But I guess, the club has learned, better late than never. We just have to be optimistic now moving forward and hope that we can obviously keep getting the right kinds of players in to supplement the class that we've done now already. But coming over to you, Mark, tell me what you felt when you saw the bomber. Did you really believe it? How does he fit into our team? And also, just maybe you can answer as well. Obviously, we know about Tonali now, but when you saw the news about Fernandes, where would you have kind of ranked him on your list of preferred central midfielders, if I could ask that?
Yeah, I think he's a really solid signing, to be honest. I think when you talk to a lot of West Ham fans, and I spoke to some West Ham fans, I know some season ticket holders, dare I say, spoke to them a couple of weeks ago when we were linked with Somerville. And I said, oh, do you think we'll nick Somerville off you? And they said, yeah, you can have him. We don't really rate him, as long as you don't take Fernandes. So he's such a key player for West Ham. I think really like the fact with our strategy at the moment, and as Dustin mentioned, we're not going and buying teenagers across Europe, hoping that they're going to do well in the Premier League, hoping that they're going to sort of exceed their values and we can sell them on at a profit at a later date. We are signing proven Premier League players. I think he's a solid signing. I think he could be key to unlocking some of the challenges that we've had in midfield. Really strong on the ball. I've watched him in the last couple of games of the World Cup. He looks like quite a sharp player in that tournament. Links really well with Bruno Fernandes. So Man United must have been absolutely gutted that they've missed out on him, because I think he would have been a great signing for their squad. So really pleased to get the deal over the line. There is almost a bit of a downside to this. I think I've been reading a lot of reports recently that because we've got Fernandes over the line and Tonali looks imminent, it means that we're not going to pull in João Palhinha. And I just want to mention that because I think João Palhinha was fantastic last season, arguably the best player in a Spurs shirt last season, and played a massive part in terms of us surviving relegation. Came up with that massive goal on the last day of the season, goals, assists, match-saving tackles during the run-in. He was a fantastic player, and I really wanted us to sign João Palhinha, but I actually think in the long run this will actually be a better signing in terms of Fernandes. I think he's a little bit younger, coming to the peak, as Dustin mentioned earlier. Great to be signing players at their peak of their careers. So I'm really, really excited by this. There's going to be an argument, and there has been an argument, that we've overpaid. And I think we'll probably hear that a lot from rival fans at the moment. But you know what? I don't care. I don't care that we've overpaid. I'd much rather us overpay than mess around for weeks upon weeks like we've done in the past, trying to undercut players' value, trying to get the best deal that we can to have that player go to a completely other club and make us all look a bit stupid. So getting the deals done really early is great to see. We've already got, 6 in the bag. There's going to be more to come. And I'm really excited to see those players come in. And we've now got a whole complete pre-season to work with these players. We're not bringing them in on deadline day when the season's already started. De Zerbi's going to work with them very closely throughout the whole of pre-season now to build a brilliant squad. But just jumping back lastly to the point around attackers, I think what we've done over the last couple of weeks, we've sorted the goalkeeper situation, we've sorted the defensive situation. We're now in the process of fixing the midfield, and strikers are going to be next. And that's, for me, the absolute key. The most important part of the transfer window for me is signing some goal scorers. We really lacked goal scorers last season. I've not got the confidence in the likes of Tell, Odobert, didn't have the confidence in Mawani. Starting to lose confidence in Richarlison a little bit. So a complete new front line, I think would sum up and put the icing on a cake to what's been a brilliant, brilliant window for Tottenham.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite funny how we're kind of literally building from the back, right? From the keeper, right? We sorted the defence first. We've brought in, cover for Kinsky. We've pretty much announced that he's supposedly going to be our number one. We've now addressed the centre of the park. It's literally going, straight through the team, right? And in a cycle towards the striker, which is quite funny. But yeah, as you say, Fernandes is 21 years old. He's already played so many games in the Premier League. Just made his debut for Portugal. A lot of fans were asking why is he not in the Portugal team? Is he that good? But he only made his debut, I think, 2 months ago, like in his first ever game. And well, I think we all know, it's pretty difficult to get into that Portuguese first 11, isn't it? In the middle of the park, bearing in mind they've got the PSG players in there, Vitinha, etc. And Bruno Fernandes is still in there somewhere anyways, isn't he? And he's just come off like his best season ever, hasn't he? So
it just keeps him fresh for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Dustin, it's a very good point, though. And you mentioned as well, Mark, because both of those midfielders, they're not the World Cup, are they? So, literally Tonali's flown in from Milan today, finished his holidays. He's going to be in London now for the foreseeable. Fernandes is there now as well. And I think pre-season training starts anyways pretty soon, doesn't it? Like officially. So, they're going to be there from the get-go, which is just such a massive bonus. Daniel Levy, as you say, would have just dragged some of these signings out till like the deadline day, right? Just to save, £1 million or something and win the battle. But yeah, luckily we don't have to go through that anymore. Probably we're not going to sign anyone on deadline day this season, but who knows? Let's see. Coming over to you, Trav. Yeah, look, I mean, I saw in the chat, right, in our Scarfey WhatsApp group and stuff when the news broke about Fernandes that, there was a massive outpouring of joy from you in the group as well. Just tell the viewers what went through your body when you saw that news and, what this means for Tottenham.
Do you know what? I'm absolutely over the moon with the two signings. So I know we will get on to tonight. That's one of the biggest talking points for me tonight because I'm literally like I'm really excited that we've got Tonali, to put it politely. But yeah, Fernandes, he's a Premier League proven player, and I love the way De Zerbi he's come in and has approached the team. He's basically cut the team in half and said, look, we'll work from the back, and as you've all said, we'll work our way to the front, and that is the exact perfect way to sort a team out that's been so in such a bad space for so many seasons. And he's got it absolutely spot on. And like you said, Phil, there's going to be other supporters saying, "Oh, Tottenham have overspent. Tottenham have done this. Tottenham have done that." But it's because it's Tottenham, And if it was City or Arsenal or Liverpool, it wouldn't matter because they are the sort of clubs that spend that sort of money. And we could go back to chip paper and say, why didn't we spend money when we got Poch? Why didn't we spend money when we had Conte? Why didn't we spend money when we had Mourinho? We could go on and on and on. But I think De Zerbi's come in and basically, look, this is what I want. You're going to get me it regardless, and he's got exactly that. But yeah, for Fernandes, obviously, I know he started. I think he started part of his career at Southampton, and then obviously went over to West Ham. But yeah, he's 21. I personally don't think an overpayment of 85 million is bad. I really don't. He's young. He's versatile. He was probably West Ham's best player last year by a country mile. So yeah, and I think what we've always needed in the team is competition. You know, there were so many players throughout last season, the season before, where they got stuck in their positions, stuck in a rut, and kind of thought to themselves, "I'm too good to be here. I'm getting bored now." You know, and kind of go off the boil a little bit. So I think in the positions that De Zerbi has now got in, I think there's going to be a lot of competition, and it'd be good to see what happens. I mean, I said to my dad yesterday, I said, I've never for the 33, nearly 34 years I've supported Tottenham, I've never seen us in this position, you know. And I know we've had the teams of Kane, Moussa Dembele, Kyle Walker, you know, Christian Eriksen. We have had a good team before, but this is different. This is so different, you know. And he said to me, you know, the last time we have ever had a transfer like this was back in the day when we had the great Ozzy Ardiles and Ricky Villa, you know, two of the best players that have ever played for Tottenham. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think it will take a while for them to gel because they've not played with each other before, obviously, and obviously that goes without saying. But I think De Zerbi is the man to get them where they need to be. And I'm so glad he has potentially seen in Kinsky what a lot of us have seen. Apart from the Champions League game, he has seen exactly how good Kinsky is, and I've said it so many times that Kinsky is better than Vicario, and Vicario could potentially be out the door. But yeah, as for the transfers, I'm absolutely elated.
We'll talk about Kinsky a bit later on in the pod in a bit more detail as well, and you know about the Dubravka signing obviously as well. But yeah, let's move on to possibly the bigger bomber. We've already mentioned, haven't we? Like yesterday evening, you know, there was rumours as well because of the end of financial year. Being actually it was already the first yesterday, wasn't it? That was the evening before. That was when we got Fernandes confirmed.
Yeah.
Right? It was just literally before the end of the financial year. But yesterday evening, there was a few X posts by trusted journos, right, saying that you could feel that something was happening, that maybe Newcastle United and Tottenham were getting a bit closer with evaluation. There was then a couple more posts came out, and then I can't remember if it was the Telegraph or the Times. Someone posted something saying that it's very close. Then Fabrizio Romano pinned something on his X page, which was basically just said Tonali with the that clock, the ticking clock kind of thing, right? So it's just a matter of time, and then obviously we got the massive bomber, which I don't think probably a lot of people were still doubting might happen, because were we really going to get both of them or just one of them? Well, we got both of them, and it's a deal worth potentially up to £100 million. I think 93 million fixed plus 7 million in add-ons, etc. So it's clearly our Tottenham biggest ever transfer. We've broken the transfer record twice in 2 days. Absolute silky player. Dustin, tell me, like, what do you think about this signing? And obviously we've talked about Fernandes as well. Like, what a central midfield we've got next season.
Indeed, I think it covers a lot of the gaps that we've had, and we have to tip our hat to our injury problems in the past few seasons that have denied us a progressive passer. So having Fernandes on, I think, helps resolve a number of those issues. My ideal player would have been like Elliot Anderson, but clearly City already have their paws over him. But I think that it means we are building kind of for more of a win now mentality, rather than hoping that some youngster comes to fruition in that position. And it's good that we're also not counting on not making stress purchases because we will have players that recover, because at this point we don't even know if Kulusevski will play again. We don't know how well Maddison will recover. We don't know. I mean, Kudus can play in the 10 as well. He plays it for Ghana. But I think it's good that we're actually signing for the situation we know as it is now, not counting on people that are injured to recover. I think if Maddison comes back and has his fitness, then we really have a midfield to be reckoned with. My concern is and it's a peripheral thing, but we're actually losing a lot of people that would have matured into a pathway, and it's a shame to lose players like Bergvall and all of that. But at this point, we can't keep hoping that youngsters we can put them in that position, and then when they disappoint us with their mistakes, they're kind of at the age where they make mistakes. So we weighted too heavily on youngsters in the previous season, and it's kind of how we ended up 17th twice. So as for whether the owners are taking it seriously, I think we can see that in the winter transfer window last season, they still weren't taking it seriously. They were still acting very similar to how Daniel Levy would have acted, but I think coming as close as we did hopefully has lit a fire under them, and they know how bad it can get with the fans, and that honestly the support that we continued to give the club even after the performances hopefully has shown both the players and the ownership that we have done our part. They need to start doing theirs, and I hope that this is an indication that they will continue to do this.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. I mean, in the end, it's probably retrospectively almost the best thing that could have happened for us, right? Getting that close almost, to being relegated, and for all of the powers that be to really have that big shock moment, probably calculating realistically, what it's going to mean for the club financially, what it's going to mean for the squad, what it's going to mean commercially for all of the deals that the club's done. And, at the end of the day, during that Wolves game, after 80 minutes or 81 minutes, whatever it was, we were literally staring into the abyss, weren't we? We were looking down into a big hole called relegation, and it looked like we wouldn't be able to get out at that moment. And then luckily Palhinha stepped up and kind of saved us in that game, and the rest is history. But yeah, coming over to you, Mark. Tell me about Tonali. Was he your number one, central midfield choice, at the beginning of the window when we kind of started to get linked with him? And are you a bit sad about Palhinha as well?
Yeah, definitely mentioned obviously Palhinha earlier, gutted to lose him, but again, I think this is a fantastic signing for us. I'm really excited by Sandro Tonali. Out of the 6 players that we've signed so far, this is one that really, really excites me. I think he's got phenomenal work rate, but also great defensive awareness as well, great long-range vision in terms of his passing. I think he's a bit of a game changer for me. Definitely brings that Italian passion as well, and I think no doubt Roberto De Zerbi played a massive part in being able to persuade him to sign for Tottenham. I didn't really see this one coming, to be honest, at the start of the window. I thought, be surprised if he left Newcastle, and I know they're obviously in a difficult financial situation where they have to sell some players, but was quite surprised. But I thought if he's going to go anywhere, he's probably going to go somewhere like United or City, or go and play Champions League football. So really surprised that we've been able to secure a top signing. But yeah, this one is really, really exciting. I think he's kind of got the work rate of Pat Matasar, with the sort of defensive capabilities of Palhinha as well. So you almost got getting the best of both worlds in one player. So yeah, as I said earlier, gutted to not be in a position where we're signing Palhinha. But again, long term, I think this is a a fantastic option for us, fantastic signing. I'm really, really excited to see Tonali in a Spurs shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it shows pretty good planning from the club, actually, that, we didn't rush into, getting Palhinha kind of signed up right at the beginning of the window. We could easily have done that, I think, based on emotion and based on everything else, but we didn't. That probably shows that the board was obviously really kind of confident, right, that we'd go out there and be able to get these targets in. We've just managed to absolutely do it and blow some other teams out of the water as well. Trav, coming over to you. You said you got a lot to say about Tonali. Like, is he your dream signing, like, for Tottenham?
Massively, without a doubt. When I first saw that we was potentially going after Sandro Tonali, my eyes literally lit up. He's just a player. He's a Premier League proven player, and he's just a player that I've rated for such a long time. He was an absolute machine at Newcastle in that midfield. I can't speak highly enough about him. He's just an absolute beast, and if you want the calibre of the likes of Sandro tonight, then you've got to pay the money. And like we've all said tonight, the club have put the money where their mouth is, and they've gone and spent 100 million on probably one of the best centre midfielders in the league, and probably the best centre midfielder for the Italian national team. I just think he's absolutely phenomenal. His strength on the ball, his football knowledge, and just everything about him just screams success. And I think he could take the midfield to a whole different level from what we've seen probably for the last, I don't know, in the last 6-7 years, even more. He's a massive signing to us, and I'm absolutely delighted and buzzing to have him. My only issue is, and I know there's been conversation about De Zerbi putting in players to replace other players. Obviously, you've got the likes of Bergvall, which I know obviously has been linked with Nottingham Forest anyway. I don't think they even come of anything, but that's the only club that I've seen him actually linked with. Pat Matassar and Bentancur. Bentancur only signed a new contract last year, I believe, so I don't really know what he's going to be. Does he keep the same three, or is Tonali going to be the one to be in that centre of the midfield with Fernandes and obviously James Maddison as well? So I know he's not 100% at the moment. Hopefully he will be fit, obviously, going into the new season. But I don't worry, because Tonali is just, you look at his stats. Is that Tonali's stats there, Phil?
I'll leave this to Dustin to just quickly explain. This is one of Dustin's specials.
Yeah, if you could please, Dustin. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is kind of a scatter plot of the players that we have in the squad, and what we have is kind of progressive passing and expected threat via live passes and progressive actions. So the players that are listed are the players that are in the top 20%, and you can see that Tonali, let me just add Tonali and okay, sorry, I haven't added Tonali and MATEUS FERNANDES to this, so I think maybe take this off first. I'll put it back up after I've added them.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Thanks, Dustin.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting to see, because these players, these signings, are head and shoulders above anything that we've got in the squad at the moment. And
you look at Gallagher as well. He's the highest paid player on the team, I believe, at the moment.
I think, like, for what it's actually coming to you, Mark, quickly, if you don't mind. Like, what do you think about Gallagher at the moment now, in terms of the squad probably and next season? Because if Madders is fit, let's say. And let's say, I don't even need to probably mention Kulusevski, because we just don't know what's going to happen with him. But let's just say Madders is fully fit. Where does Gallagher get into that team? Does he get into the team?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think there's probably two things that are going to be really, really important for us next season, and it's a great position to be in. One is the fact that we've got competition for places, and I think sometimes that brings the best out of players, and you want to see competition for places in the side. But also we've got options we've got some really, really good options, especially in midfield. Be interesting to see some of the outgoings. I expect some of them to obviously leave, and we'll probably come on to that. But yeah, I just think we've got options now. We can change a game tactically to suit opposition, whether that's before the game, during the game, to see a game out. We've got the options to do that. It's going to be really, really competitive in the middle of the park. Don't forget, obviously, Xavi Simons to come back at some point later on in the season as well. But Maddison and Gallagher competing for those places as well. It's a really, really amazing position to be in. The fact that we've got options and we've got competition in there. So I don't mind. It's down to the players to fight for their places and show how good they are, and that will no doubt bring the best out of them.
Yeah, Gallagher's going to fight, isn't he? He's going to be keen to get a starting spot, and the fact that he can play that number 10 role, maybe not your classical number 10, like a Xavi Simons, but he was good. He was good in that, wasn't he? At the end of the season, like De Zerbi got the best out of him, so it's good that Madders will get, a bit of competition as well, right, when he comes back, probably. Go on, Trav.
Phil, can I just ask what people's, obviously with the new signers as well, with Tonali and Fernandes, what people's ideal starting midfield would be? I'm really intrigued because I don't think anyone's really spoke about that yet.
Before we do that, I've just put up the updated scatter plot from Dustin here. Do you want to maybe just explain it, Dustin, and just show where Tonali and Fernandes are in that before we maybe go into the ideal midfields of everyone?
Sure. I think the two stats that I've put in this scatter plot as the X and Y axis are kind of progressive passing, because I think that's the area that we're lacking in the most. I think literally John Paul Van Hecker, I think it was Marcos Senesi created more through balls than Spurs did the entire season. I think we finished the season with 8 through balls. And Van Hecker alone, I think, played like 11 last season as an individual. So it is a statistic where we have, stats aren't everything, but it indicates what we're not doing. And so what I have is expected threat via live passes, which is of these players that are listed here, they're plotted based on how more to the right. If you have a high expected threat via a pass from one of these players, and then the other is progressive action. So volumetrically, how many progressive passes and actions like carries do they play, and what are the threats from live passes that they've created. So you see kind of whatever's plotted on the up and to the right, those are kind of the top 20% in the world. Or rather, I only plotted the top 5 leagues because there are certain leagues where if you put them in, it'll be all Eredivisie or Championship players. So top 5 leagues in Europe, and you can see it's like Vitinha, Pedri, Kimmich, Cherki, all those kinds of players. And you see from our squad, Xavi Simons is the closest to that. But if you look at the rest of the midfielders, Tonali and Fernandes are better statistically than the rest of our squad. So they're not Xavi Simons level, but at least they're an improvement over the rest of the squad.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see that. Who would your preferred midfield 3 be? Would it be with Madders and those two, Dustin?
I think if it's Madders and those two, you're set up, and it's a very good balance, I would say, because with Madders, kind of the problem that we had was that he can make the through pass, but who's going to receive between the lines? Who can receive on the turn? It's also Madders. So I think it's partially you have the problem of the player that can play the pass is also the player that needs to receive the pass. If both Madders and Xavi Simons are fit, then you kind of have that. But the good thing is that Fernandes can receive on the turn, and then you have Tonali who can play. And the thing about it is that everyone thinks of Tonali as the player that played for Newcastle, but he played very differently when he was playing for Milan, and he was closer to a Fernandes profile for Milan. So you have two players that have more ability to receive between the lines on the turn or on the half turn, and that's what we've been sorely lacking. Where and the problem we've also had was when the games that Madders came back was that he dropped deep into centre back levels, and then he would turn and have to make a through pass. But who's going to be able to receive that through pass? It's also him. So the fact that we now have centre backs that can make those passes means he doesn't need to drop deep, and he can receive in a more attacking area. And when he receives and turns, he's got players that he can have interplay with, do bounce passes, run into an area. So, you know, it's not just the progressive passes that we needed to improve. We needed the progressive pass receivers to be able to receive it and not lose the ball or pass it back immediately. And I think that's kind of what both Tonali and Fernandes represent an improvement on our existing squad for.
I just want to stick with you, Dustin, just ask you one more question, because you are our resident, you know, tactics expert and analyst. You know, you create these amazing, you know, graphs and statistics and stuff. But I've got one more question while we're just talking about that, because you mentioned there that, you know, Tonali played a different role at Milan, right, before he was at Newcastle. Fernandes played in a very poor Southampton team, right, when they went down. I think they one of the worst teams statistically ever, I think, in the Premier League in terms of points and statistics and stuff. And even at West Ham, obviously, he's been playing in a dysfunctional team, let's say, this last season. Now that both of those players are coming into what we hope is going to be a much more effective team, but not only that, because there's the two defenders behind now who have the highest progressive passing stats in the league, Senesi and Van Hecke. My question to you is, like, how do you think De Zerbi, from a tactical perspective, how is that going to work? Like, the defenders, when they get the ball and they do progressive actions, will they be threading the ball through the first line straight into, you know, our midfield, who will then also do progressive actions? Or do you see some cases as well, though, where, you know, Senesi and Van Hecke will actually kind of like split all of the lines, if that makes any sense, you know, and get it out to the wide players maybe first of all, or even up to the striker first? You know, it would just be interesting to kind of understand a bit, you know, based on the player profiles, playing in a more effective team. Because I would imagine that maybe these, if you do this scatter plot in 1 year's time, that, you know, the our players on there, Fernandes, Tonali, probably Simons, Gallagher, maybe all of them will automatically be better, like in this graph, just because of the way the team's playing. But do you know what I mean? Maybe, could you just kind of explain that bit, how you think De Zerbi, how that's going to work in practice?
I think everyone is going to move up and to the right when they're not playing Thomas Frank ball, to be perfectly honest. I think it's a kind of nuanced answer to that, because a lot of what we do will depend on what the opposition does. And I think you've seen kind of like from the World Cup, there are a lot of different styles in terms of the way teams play. Even the way that they sit in a low block is quite different these days, because I think the biggest tactical evolution has kind of been these like hybrid man-to-man pressing systems. And that's why the Premier League last season was kind of like one of the strangest seasons we've seen, where even the teams that traditionally keep the ball have, you know, started doing things like kicking it out to touch like it's a rugby game. We have like rugby scrums on set pieces, and it's been a very interesting season, because the way that the game is being played is so different based on like where the dominant and winning teams found their edge, and lately it's been like set pieces, right? So I think the reason that that's happened is because teams that play defensively are a lot better at being organized now, and they're just more aware of how their positional discipline is how they keep teams out. So I think that the fact that De Zerbi is going for all these progressive passes, and specifically line splitting passes and good progressive passes of the ball, is an indication that he is aware that he can't just rely on baiting the press, because teams that are well organized will not be baited. and they will rather maintain positional discipline than be fished out like a hook by a player that seems to be having starts on the ball, because they know what his game is and they know that De Zerbi likes to bait the press. So as long as you are, as an individual player, go, I'm not gonna give up my position and create space behind me, then you've got to figure out other ways of breaking them down. The most important point, I think, is that where there is space in teams that sit in a deep block like that, is actually crossing the ball to the other flank as quickly as you can, because most of the time when you're on one particular flank, the team moves as an entire block to the side that the ball is at, and where you actually have space is actually either crossing to the other flank, where normally there will be a player that's free. It's normally the opposite side wing back, or it could be a box crashing midfielder, because they're not normally picked up by teams that are trying to sit in a deep block. So I think having Porro means that you can do it from the right flank to the left. I don't know who we have on the left flank that will be able to do that, but it's the ability to change play from one flank to the other very quickly and exploit the fact that there will be a free player there. So having these line breaking passes also mean that if there's a team that doesn't sit as disciplinarily tight, then you have space between the lines and you would have passes that can find those players. So I think that it's building for different kinds of teams, and the profile that we're building now with all the line breaking passes is for beating teams in the top 6 that would come at us a bit more and not sit in a deep block. And then we've got to get players that help us solve problems for when they're sitting in the deep block. But I think we're solving for beating the better teams that play against us now, because that's where we suffered quite a bit.
Very interesting. Very interesting. We've already talked actually a lot longer about Tonali and Fernandes than I planned for, but if we're being honest, it's biggest news of this week, isn't it? So we could probably just talk about them all evening, like, to be honest. I want to come back to you, Mark. Like, what is your preferred midfield setup? And as a second question though, like, where do Bergvall and Ray fit in?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, when everyone's fit, I'm quite excited to see our starting midfield being Fernandes, Tonali, and Xavi Simons in that number 10 role. Obviously, with injuries at the moment, I think it has to be James Maddison in that number 10 role. We might see Lucas Bergvall rotate a little bit with Maddison. I think that's probably why we'll look to keep Bergvall. I know he wants to go, but I think while Xavi Simons is injured, I actually think we're going to need Lucas Bergvall as a bit of a backup in that number 10 role. So I think that's my ideal. I think with sort of the 6 and 8 positions, I think you've got Gallagher, Bentancur and Gray, I think, as the backup options to Fernandes and Tonali. And I think you might see a little bit of rotation there, depending on the games that we play, depending on who we're playing against. Injury, suspensions will no doubt come into play as well. But my ideal midfield 3 is Fernandes, Tonali, with Xavi Simons in that number 10 role. I can't wait to see that as the season progresses. But for now, yeah, I think it's Maddison in the 10 role with Bergvall rotating in there with him, I think, to be honest, unless we go and sign another number 10, which I don't think we will.
Yeah. Do you agree, Trav? Are you on the same page, pretty much?
Yeah, pretty much. I agree with Mark, to be fair. I think that's quite an outstanding midfield, really. It'd be interesting to see what he does with Kudus out on that flank. Obviously, I'm hoping he's going to be 100% fit, obviously, come the new season. But I've always wanted to see Kudus in more of that attacking approach, as a striker role. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we do with the front line, because our front line at the moment really isn't great. I think we will end up sending Richarlison, keep Solanke, and obviously we've got players still out on loan as well. Obviously with Devine and Will Lancashire as well. They're also both, and obviously Dane Scarlett as well. So it'd be interesting to see what we do there, and obviously how much De Zerbi kind of sees in the youth. But yeah, I think our front line definitely needs sorting out. But and obviously we've been linked with Junior Kroupi as well tonight, which I couldn't believe my eyes for really for 90 million. It's like a FIFA manager career mode at the moment. It really is. You put the money up to £1 billion. You go and put Messi out in the wing. You go and put Mbappe out front, and Ronaldo, and all players like that. That's what it seems like at the moment. But yeah, I just, as I said earlier, I think De Zerbi's got absolutely spot on with working his way through the team, and I think he's probably been the only manager that we've had for a long time that's actually done that. And the formation next year is going to be quite frightening. I think as long as they can gel, I think we're going to be a sleeping giant that is now awake. I wouldn't want to be playing us next year if we gel and really have a good start to the season.
Yeah, perfect. Before we talk about the likes of Kroupi and the fact that there's definitely going to be more incomings, in fact, there was a post about an hour ago or 2 hours ago by Sammy Mokbel from the BBC, who's a pretty respected, grade A reporter, who said we've got another 250 million to spend, apparently. I think that's including outgoings. So, we'd have to obviously generate some of that, but that's still a lot of money, right, on top. So we'll talk about that afterwards. I guess we do need to talk about outgoings this week as well. And in a transfer which has kind of split opinion probably across the fan base, it was confirmed as well in the middle of the bomber, pretty much, that we've actually agreed a deal with Brighton to sell Luka Vuskovic for a deal with a total value of about £50 million. I think 46, 47 million plus realistic add-ons. Caveat that on top, though, because some fans have questioned maybe it's a bit low. We do have a 20% sell-on clause on that, and we do supposedly have some kind of, I don't know if it's a first refusal buyback clause. There's obviously not an amount set, but we do have a clause in the contract which means that if any other team bids for Vuskovic in the future, Brighton have to notify us immediately, and we are able to match the bid and potentially get him back, kind of thing, right? So we can say about that what we want. Starting off with you, Mark, on this one. Is this a good deal for Tottenham, all things considered?
Yeah, I think probably if you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago who's the one player you don't want us to sell in the transfer window, I would have probably said Vuskovic. I was really excited to see him come back for Tottenham. Having said that, if De Zerbi doesn't think that he fits into this side, then I think we've got to trust Roberto De Zerbi. I am a bit gutted because I was really excited about Vuskovic. But you think about it, we've got Van de Ven, Van Heck, Senasi with Danso. That's three excellent ball-playing centre-backs with a brilliant option there with Danso as a backup option as well. I think we'll sell Romero, and I think it's probably the right time to sell Romero for him to move on. So we're well covered at centre-back. And as long as we get a good deal, and we obviously put some clauses in there which I think safeguard us and protect us a little bit more, and at least kind of take some of the edge off of it a little bit. But I am disappointed. I was hoping it would be a loan situation if he was going to leave Tottenham, and I think him going on loan to Brighton would have been excellent for him and good for us as well, and would have given us some sort of an option to bring him back at a later date, because he's still incredibly young for such a great centre-back. So I am a little bit disappointed, I'm not going to lie. I can probably understand it. We've got solid back four now, or solid sort of centre-backs. So De Zerbi just doesn't feel like he fits in. But I have to say, I fully trust De Zerbi. There's going to be a lot of outgoings. There's going to be some difficult decisions in terms of outgoings. This is definitely a difficult decision. I would have much preferred a loan, but yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, but it is what it is. We've got to make a decision and go for it. It sounds like he didn't want a loan deal. It sounds like he wants to go, he wants to play, he wants Premier League experience. I think Brighton is a great club for him, actually, to be honest. It suits his style of play. I would be a little bit gutted if obviously he's become a top player next season in the Premier League, scoring lots of goals. I would be slightly disappointed, but he's not the kind of player that's going to sit as a fourth choice centre back in our side. So we're well covered in that position.
Before I come to you, Trav, on it, because I think you've got some quite strong views on this one, but before I come to you, I would just agree with you, Mark, on the fact that it seems like his agent has been pushing him, for a way out, for a move quite aggressively, and he certainly didn't want to hang around on a loan, for a season kind of thing. So it almost seems like, I don't want to say that the player has kind of really misbehaved and, he hasn't gone on strike or anything like that, has he? But it does sound like the player and his agent have kind of pushed this through and are not really prepared to kind of fight for the shirt, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he obviously wants to go and play, and Brighton is a great opportunity for him. Good way of playing as well over there. Good at developing young players. He's going to get game time there. I'm disappointed about it as well that he maybe didn't want to kind of come back to Tottenham and impress, try and impress De Zerbi in training, show what he's about, right, and actually try and see if he can get a space in the squad, right? It seems like this has been pushed through quite quickly. I've seen a lot of Vuskovic, by the way, in Germany. I mean, I'm based in Frankfurt, so I've seen him in the Bundesliga this last season. I've seen him live as well in the stadium, and he has had a very good season. But I'd be interested to hear Dustin's views on it as well, because I've got some very clear views on Vuskovic's deficits, if I can say it like that, which give me question marks about his future.
Yeah, just quickly before you hand over to Dustin, sorry to jump in. The only thing I was going to say as well, we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes at a club. We obviously make a lot of assumptions. You never know. De Zerbi could have turned around and convinced Romero to stay. Romero could have now been sort of really wanting to stay and fight for his place, which means we've got 5 centre-backs there. So there's even less game time for Vuskovic. So we don't know what goes on behind closed scenes, behind closed doors. Maybe there is a reason why he wants out of the club. But yeah, disappointing to be honest. But yeah, sorry to jump in and.
That's fine. That's fine. This one's is a player who I think divides opinions a bit, because I'm also disappointed. I wanted to see Vuskovic go on this Robert De Zerbi journey with us. Obviously we signed him a few years ago. Everyone knew from the beginning he's a massive talent, and it would have been lovely to just see him kind of break through at 18 into the team, obviously, right, and then kind of go on this, De Zerbi transformation as well. But look, it isn't to be. Trav, is it the wrong decision by the club?
It's the worst decision I've ever seen. I'm fuming that I'm telling you now, right? That was not a De Zerbi decision to let Vuskovic go for 52 million, and that is an ENIC decision and Vinay decision. That is a club decision, not a manager's decision. And I know you just said, Phil, you're out in Germany. You watch the German league, and obviously I know you've seen Hamburg as well. He was absolutely phenomenal for Hamburg last year, and I'm telling you now, in the next 2, 3, 4 years, he's going to be one of the best centre backs in Europe. Mark my words, he's unbelievable. I would rather sell Romero for 40, 50 million. Let him go to Atletico. Simeone absolutely loves him. Let him go to Atletico and let him go and enjoy his time out in Spain. I'm gutted that we signed Van Hecker for 52 million, and then we let Vuskovic go for 52 million. Bit of a coincidence, really, So that's why, for me, I think it is a club decision that they let him go for that money. But he's 21, and Brighton are so fortunate to have him. I know we've got Danso, Romero. He might have turned around and thought, okay, they're bringing all these signings in with Van Heck and Senesi, etc. I'm not going to get a foot in the door, but at least send the guy out on loan. Put him back out on loan. I don't care if he goes on loan to Brighton. I don't care if he goes on loan to another London club. I'm not bothered. You can't sell the likes of Luka Vuskovic. He's going to be unbelievable in the next couple of years. And I know the German league's different. I know it's slower compared to the Premier League. Premier League's the fastest league in the world. But I just think, you can't have it all. I know that. But Vuskovic is unbelievable, and I'm fuming that he's gone. I'd rather let Romero go on the cheap and kept Vuskovic. I'm gutted that he went. Gutted.
Do you not think, though, maybe in line with us, signing so many players so quickly and almost being no nonsense around it,
Yeah, I mean there hasn't been any.
that it's in some shape or form at least good business by the club to move him on so quick?
Yeah, I mean to get 52 million for a 21-year-old who is unbelievable. Yeah, it's great. 52 million is a lot of money that we could potentially put towards another player if we haven't already done it with Tonali or Fernandes. There is an aspect to it, but at the same time you've got to look at the quality you've got in front of you. And I said on the podcast last season, get Vuskovic back off on loan and give him a run in the Tottenham starting 11. I mean, Brighton are a good club, but I just think he's going to hang out like a sore thumb in the Brighton squads, especially being in the defence. Now they've not got Van Heck anymore. But yeah, he should have gone out on loan and sell Romero. Romero's attitude towards the end of the season was absolutely appalling, and it has been. He's a red card, literally a red card, and I think. I mean, if you're going to convince Romero to stay, then I'll give up because I fell out of love with Romero a long time ago. But yeah, selling Vuskovic he's awful. Yeah,
I think the problem with Vuskovic is that he's been told from a young age, right, that he's going to be the next big thing, and his agent's been telling him that the whole time. And people in Germany from Bayern Munich have come out and said, if he continues his development,
exactly.
then he could be really, really good. And almost feels a bit like he's it's come maybe a bit not too fast for him, because I would have liked to have loaned him out, like Mikey Moore went to Rangers last season, loan him out maybe even in the Premier League, right? Like obviously to a Brighton, let's say, but I don't know, it's weird. Like there just seems to be maybe more to the story possibly, because why wouldn't he be up just for going on a straight loan, for someone like Brighton for a year, because he's going to get game time. He can get used to England and then come back next summer when hopefully, we're back in Europe. So there's more games to play, because he wasn't going to be assuming we would have kept him at the same time as obviously having Van Hecke, and Van de Ven, he wouldn't be getting game time this season ahead of Van Hecke.
Can I just add, Phil? I think for a youngster as well, I think it can have quite a detrimental effect on putting a loanee out in the Premier League and then putting him back out in Germany or wherever. I think that can have quite a detrimental effect on a player's quality from playing two different types of football. So that could be an aspect to it. I don't know, but yeah, there's got to be something up there.
There is an element, I think, where he feels he's 18 now, isn't he? So he's kind of fully senior, and I think he maybe feels like he needs a proper home, somewhere where he knows he's going to play, but also be there for 2 or 3 years and have a chance to kind of make a squad. But like time will tell on him, because he does have deficits in his game. If he had, but just before coming to Dustin, because Dustin, I'm sure that you've also got some kind of profiling, let's say, on him in a bit more detail. But I would just say very quickly that if he had pace, if he had Mickey's pace and agility on top of what he's got now, then there'd be no way we'd be selling him right now. What do you think about it, Dustin? Like, is this a good deal, all things considered, or do you think we've acted rashly, maybe, on this one?
I think that we don't have as much control over this as we think, primarily because I think that, we talk about how he could have just gone on loan, but I think that it's either him or his agent have decided that they are not going to tolerate a loan. And to be fair, I think that for a lot of players, going out on repeated loans is, if you have someone in your ear that is concerned about your professional future, the person in your ear will go, you can't keep going out on loans, you can't keep being the loan player. And partially, part of it is that when you're a coach at a club, there's pressure from the fans to like give our youngsters a chance rather than this lone player, even if the lone player is good, because all you're doing is you're improving him for his parent team. You're not improving a club asset, you're improving someone else's player. So I think from that perspective, I don't think he's going to tolerate another loan, and I think that the only players that tolerate repeated loans are academy players, because they have a link to the club, and that's why our academy players are willing to go out on repeated loans, because they don't have an agent in their ear going, this is not good for your career. So from that perspective, I can understand why there's been so much jostling from his point of view, about like, how he wanted. He was using his agent and using like leaks to the media, like, I want to stay at Hamburg to be with my brother, and I'm not interested in a loan. So I think that for from that perspective, he was never going to accept another loan. Now about how we've done in terms of like selling him to Brighton. I think that selling him to Brighton, but adding clauses for sell-on fee, adding clauses to have a right of first refusal, and being right to be notified whenever a club comes in for him, is as much control as you can put into a player that you're selling without it being a loan. Which is, if his value increases a lot, we get upside from that. If he becomes a player that we might look to buy back in the future, you have both the discount of the sell-on fee as well as information of when he's been contacted, when clubs are looking to sign him. You don't want him to go to Arsenal, for example. So those are the kinds of things that we've inserted in his exit clause to give us as much as we can an approximation of what a loan would have been like. But it's still not, it gives him the permanent transfer he wanted, which is good for his career, but it puts enough hooks there that there is a way to claw him back at some level. It's not as much control as we would like, but given the blockers in his progression to the first team, he was never going to stick around and wait to basically get his way up the pecking order when there are literally 4 centre-backs or 5 centre-backs that are ahead of the pecking order to him. As far as his attributes as a player, I think the lack of pace is something that you've mentioned before, and I think that his aerial dominance is something to behold, but I wonder whether Bundesliga aerial dominance will translate in the Premier League. We saw him play against England for Croatia, and I think that while he played well in the first half, I think that he was at fault for Bellingham's goal, and I think that's decision making when you're playing against players with pace. And so the reason why I think that if we could loan him to Brighton, ideal, right? But he didn't accept the loan. But him going to a Premier League club next would actually be the right move for him, because when you don't have pace, you still can get around it, because Senesi and Van Hecke don't actually have that much pace either. But you get around that with game intelligence, with positioning, with coordination with your centre-back partners and stuff like that. So I think that the move to Brighton will improve him, primarily because he will learn to deal with situations like the Bellingham goal that Croatia conceded, because that's decision making at pace. And his decision to go with Madueke rather than trying to snuff out the threat with Bellingham when he had a centre-back behind him that would have covered Madueke. I think it's that decision making at pace that he's missing, not just the physical pace, but if I don't have pace to cover, or if I have this player to cover. And we saw it with Jet Spence as well. Everyone's blaming Jet Spence for the last goal, but he had to cover 2 players. So it's kind of that decision making that he needs to be put in a position against players of that quality, of a league with that level of pace, to be able to get the experience to go, okay, we know he's the real deal now. Because at some level, doing what he's done in the Bundesliga is great, but Eric Dyer went there and became like Bayern's, Bayern's if not first choice, he was thought of quite well at Bayern, and we bombed him out of the club. So I think that's one thing we have to take into consideration as well.
You're absolutely right on all of that, Dustin. I mean, when I've seen him in the Bundesliga this season, I see him as a box defender at the moment. Like if he's in a line in the box, defending crosses, defending balls into the box in an organised line, he's fantastic because his aerial dominance is just so good. He's an absolute beast. However, 1v1, against a tricky winger, or I say against a tricky winner, against any of the Premier League kind of level wingers that we have, in the Premier League. As we know, pretty much every team is dangerous on the flanks. I would like to see how he gets on, like at Brighton. I'm curious just to see how he actually gets on, especially as they play quite a high line, or they like to play a high line under Hutzler. So I think it's going to be interesting. But, we're going to move on to another topic now. But the last thing I would just say about Vuskovic, I think, is that we're parting ways, but in a positive way. I think we'd like to think that we've given him the opportunities to go on loan, and they've been good opportunities for him, but we're also allowing him to leave permanently now. And if that means we do have this buyback, it's not really a buyback clause, but it is like a buyback option, isn't it? Like you'd like to think that maybe because we have allowed him to go, and it's positive, hopefully, that he may consider coming back to us, in the future, if it's us against someone else, right? We haven't stitched him over. We haven't fallen out with him big time. He's got what he wants. His agent's got a payday out of it, hasn't he?
We haven't done the Kane's gentleman's agreement that then we go, actually, I'm not a gentleman.
Let's not talk about that one. Let's not talk about that one anymore. We'd love to talk about Harry Kane, though, wouldn't we? He proved it again yesterday, just in world-class moments.
Bill, can I just
Sir
say,
Harold delivers.
Dustin mentioned Eric Dyer. We won't go to Eric Dyer, Dustin. That's quite a sore subject for me. As
oh my God, it is.
Knows, so.
You haven't mentioned him in the WhatsApp group for a long time, actually.
I actually forgot about him.
He's been he was on X this week, wasn't he? Being shown doing his coaching down in Monaco.
To be fair, he looks a decent coach.
Yeah, he does.
Probably the best thing for him. He's not good at anything else.
Now he's very good at running up the stands.
Yeah. He is indeed. I'm going to move on to you, Mark, now. We're going to have to actually put a bit of pace into this pod now because all of these interesting topics are taking a bit longer. I want to talk Kinsky relatively quickly, not too long, but from all of you. But Mark, first of all, are you happy that Kinsky, as it looks like, it's 99% sure because they've said it, he's going to be our number one? Are you happy with that? And also Dubravka, quickly. Is he a good number two?
Yeah, excellent number two, especially to get him in on a free. And Dubravka will be number two. Kinsky will no doubt be number one next season, and I'm all for it. Fantastic young goalkeeper. I think his technical ability is outstanding. And remember, he's quite young as well, so he's only going to get better as a goalkeeper. Really good with the ball at his feet, really good distribution, solid in terms of coming off his line for crosses. He's basically, all of his strengths are Vicario's weaknesses. I was completely sort of fed up over the last couple of seasons seeing Vicario kick the ball out of play when you want him to keep it in play, or keep it in play when you want him to kick it out of play and give the ball away and give a goal away. Flapping at crosses, getting far too animated and excited at the back there. Just doesn't breed that sort of calmness and stability you need at the back. And Kinsky brings that. I think he's so calm under pressure. Even the games where he's making mistakes, or that one game where he made a mistake, he was still incredibly calm under pressure. And handled that situation with such maturity for a young goalkeeper to bounce back from that when there's very much established goalkeepers that would be in that situation and they crumble, their careers would never get back on track. We've seen that before with lots of other goalkeepers, but to bounce back from that, show that resilience from a young age. And I thought during the run-in back into last season, he was outstanding, made some terrific saves, match-winning saves, and he's absolutely earned the right to wear that number one shirt next season. I'm really excited. Great young goalkeeper. Dubravka, quickly as mentioned, excellent backup goalkeeper. I think might be a little bit rotation in some of the cup games perhaps, but Dubravka has proven before he's more than capable. Made some outstanding saves at Burnley last season, a team that were almost sort of whipping boys, weren't they, at one point? But yeah, great free signing. Can't believe we got him and Sanasi on a free signing, and Robertson. I think that's three brilliant players to bring into the side, particularly Robertson and Dubravka being backup in terms of their preferred positions. But yeah, no, really pleased. All for it. 'Cause I'm a big fan of Kinsky. Have been for a long, long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully deserved as well. Fully deserved from my perspective. Trav, on your side, you've been a Kinsky fanboy the whole way, haven't you? From day one, pretty much?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, he's, as Mark quite rightly said, you know, Kinsky's far more composed than what Vicario has ever been, you know, and obviously we've only had Kinsky for a short duration. Far more composed, far more calmer on the ball. He's better with his feet. His distribution is a lot more better than Vicario's. Yeah, I'm really excited for him to be our number one, to be honest with you. And I think Dubravka is a pretty good backup, to be fair. I think the recent backup keepers we've had before, the likes of Fraser Forster and that, you know, and I think they've just been a complete waste of time, really. So for me, yeah, happy to see Kinsky as number one. I think that'll do his confidence a world of good, obviously, after what happened in the Europa League. It was the Europa League, wasn't it?
Champions League.
Champions League.
Champions League. Sorry, yeah, Champions League. So yeah, I think there is confidence a world of good. Yeah, and I think he's going to do really well for us next year. And as Mark said as well, it'll be good rotational for cup games as well, and giving Dubravka more of a run. So yeah, I've got nothing negative to say about Kinsky whatsoever. As you said, Phil, I'm a big fanboy for Kinsky. I've really rated him high. A lot of people really couldn't see where anyone was coming from in regards to the positivity for Kinsky, but yeah, I think he's going to be really good for us in the new season.
Excellent. That's two Kinsky massive fans so far. Before I come to Dustin, and we've got a beautiful little graphic here as well, which Dustin's going to explain as well on Kinsky, and how he maybe benefits De Zerbi ball, let's say. I just want to put it out there as well. On day one when we signed Kinsky, I told everyone that we are signing the heir to Peter Cech's throne in the Czech Republic. A good mate of mine from the same hometown as me in the UK, he's lived in Prague for the last 10 years, and his kids go to the same sports club where Kinsky came through the youth. And this guy has been hyped up for a number of years, right? His dad, obviously, Kinsky's dad was a Czech international keeper as well, right? So it's in the family somewhere. But this guy genuinely has been built up. I don't think anyone's saying he's going to be as good as Peter Cech, because that's a how do you say, a very lofty comparison to have to make. Bear in mind, Cech's probably one of the top 5 goalkeepers ever, you'd probably have to say, or at least in modern football, probably. But this guy has always been destined to be a really good keeper, and I'm just delighted that we managed to get through the bad times, and he managed to get over that Madrid thing. And the fact that he's going to be number one is just amazing. But anyway, coming on to you, Dustin, give us your thoughts, and also maybe just explain this in terms of how Kinsky benefits, or is maybe even like the perfect keeper for Robert De Zerbi ball.
So I think that one of the things that we always associate with De Zerbi ball is like starts on the ball and you bait the press, so that, you know, when the defender or when the striker, whoever is pressing you, gets pulled out of position, they leave gaps. And normally it's been the centre backs doing it in De Zerbi teams. With Kinsky, we actually have a keeper that's comfortable enough on the ball to do that, and a lot of it is the composure. It's about continuing to bait the press even when it's getting kind of dangerous, because it's the sense of danger that actually pulls the pressing player out towards you and causes positional indiscipline. So if we're looking to unlock teams, I think that, you know, there's no better keeper to do that than Kinsky. If we remember his debut against Liverpool, where, you know, he had Diogo Jota closing in on him, and then he just taps it up into the air over his head and catches it, and even Jota goes, fair play, right? So I think that that composure on the ball is extraordinary. It's there are keepers that are good on the ball and able to pass, but it doesn't mean they're composed enough to retain possession even when they're being pressed, and Kinsky is. And in this example on screen, it's even the intelligence of going, I want to pass, is that Spence? Yeah, it's maybe no, I think that's Paulinia. So it's Kinsky going, I want to pass to Paulinia, but at this point this Villa player is in the way. So he fakes a pass to Danso so that the passing lane is blocked off, and then he effectively moves the presser out of the way of where he actually wanted to pass. Then he creates an easy pass for himself. This is like the kind of intelligence that even an outfield player, I think even our outfield midfielders couldn't do this at this point of the season.
Yeah.
But we have a keeper that's even better at manipulating opponents out of your way so that you can make passes that you want to make. So I think that from a passing perspective, he's got the composure on the ball, he's got the passing range as well, and I think that's the important part that's really missing from Vicario's game, which is Vicario could do short passes. So under Ange, Vicario didn't look as bad because Ange set up a system such that he never needed to be incredible on the ball. He just needed to see the open man and pass it to him. And so like short passing is a thing that managers can compensate for, but what Kinsky can do that Vicario cannot is the mid-range passing, lofting it over to the wing backs. Those are things that once you have that in your arsenal, it means that you are less reliant on someone dropping back to give you a bounce pass and things like that. So it means that we don't need to sacrifice as many midfielders dropping deep in build up. We can, with two good centre backs that are good with through balls, and then we have Kinsky there, and then you have you have midfielders that can receive on the turn. You basically have positions that you take up because they're good positions, not I have to drop deep because my keeper can't pass. So that gives us a lot more positional flexibility, and we can have our team setting up in positions that are ideal for progressing the ball rather than sacrificing players to shuttle the ball because your keeper cannot pass over 30 yards. On the Atletico Madrid thing, I think it was a bad look, but then we've realized now that Atletico Madrid make their pitch like that for Champions League games. I think Barcelona literally had the same thing happen to them a week ago. So what that has shown though is to have the mental fortitude to be able to recover from that and then still play the last few games of a relegation threatened season and make some of the saves that he made. I think that it says a lot about his mental fortitude. It says a lot about the background he has. His father's probably giving advice, and I think that you kind of, it takes a village, right? And when you have a professional player in your family that's giving you advice, that's another thing that adds a whole new level to the experience that you have, the experience you can pull upon. So he's a modern player, a player that compensates for a lot of the gaps that we had. And the other thing I'll say about this as well is that, remember like De Zerbi saying, of course Vicario's my number one everything. I think partially it's the Italian thing, but I think it's also during the time that De Zerbi came in, he said whatever needed to be said to motivate those players to do what they needed to do. And I think he did that to Vicario just in case Kinsky gets injured. I haven't completely destroyed Vicario's confidence or his market value. He said that at Paulinia as well. So I think we also have to take what Roberto De Zerbi said in that period to go. It was, some of it is what he needed to say to get those performances out of those players, and it's not necessarily his long-term view.
Yeah, some very good points there. Some very good points. I think everyone seems to be pretty happy with Kinsky being a number one. He's obviously signed a new, was it a 5-year deal?
Oh, I
6-year deal even?
I forgot to mention that there's one thing that he does need to work on. The times that he has conceded goals, there have been times where people have gone, why didn't he, why wasn't he anywhere close to making the save? So one thing I'll notice about Kinsky is that his footwork just before the player shoots sometimes needs work, and sometimes his stance is a little too wide. So if he thinks the player is shooting in one direction and the player changes direction and shoots the other side, or the player disguises the side of the goal he's shooting at, that's an area I think that he needs to improve on, which is how he sets up his feet so that he can dive in the right position, and being a bit more neutral so that he's not sold the wrong corner too easily. But other than that, everything else as a goalkeeper, I think he's doing perfectly fine.
Fantastic. Well, we've been going for about an hour and 25 now. Got a few more points there. I'm going to literally just probably not go through a couple of them in detail, but we want to obviously just quickly get to, the future signings for the rest of the window, priorities, the fact that we've got this Kroupi interest as an example. Very, very quickly, are we all agreed that the club deserves credit for what we've done since the end of the season? A lot of fans weren't convinced by the words of Peter Charrington, at the end of the season in terms of what we needed to do, and probably Vinay's words as well. Does anyone not agree with that? Does anyone say that, the jury is still out, or is everyone right now fully on the ENIC 2.0 and the De Zerbi train, let's say, as it stands at the moment? Rav, you got your hand up?
Yeah, the jury's still out for me. What they've done is, absolutely brilliant. However, we need a world-class striker. And that probably goes without saying, but if we can get a world-class striker, I'm not saying that's going to be Junior Kroupi, because I don't think it's going to be. But if we can get Junior Kroupi or someone of his calibre, and splash the cash like we have done on Tonali and Fernandes, then I will happily say that the ENIC have done me proud. But at the moment, that front line needs sorting out dramatically, whether that's Richarlison goes to another club. I'm happy to keep Solanke at the moment. I'm still not convinced on Solanke with his injuries. And he's not an out-and-out goal scorer. So if we can get an out-and-out goal scorer, then I'll happily say that we have had a 10 out of 10 transfer window. I might be asking too much after what ENIC have spent out, but we have not had an out-and-out striker for years, and that is where we're struggling personally. I don't know what you other guys think, Dustin and Mark, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think three things for me. I think one, we absolutely need a goal scorer in terms of an attacking option. Kroupi Jr. I think would be a phenomenal option, but time will tell whether we pull that one off. I wouldn't also say no to someone like Marcus Rashford as well. Again, proven Premier League goal scorer. Omar Mamouche as well, if that's a potential option. I think that one of those three players, I think, would be a great option. But I also think we need a left-sided attacker as well, because I'm not convinced with Matisse Tel. I'm not convinced with Odobert. Was never convinced by Timo Werner. And it's a position that we've struggled to sort of fill since Sonny left, and when Sonny was coming towards the end of his time at Spurs. So for me, a striker, but also a left-sided attacker. And I think if you've got someone like Savinho on the left, Kudus on the right, and a new striker, that's a whole new sort of front three. I think that's the absolute perfect transfer window for us. In terms of giving the club credit, I think that's hard to do at the moment, because I think you can't forget the fact that we haven't done this for so many years when we should have done it for so many years. I mean, imagine if we would have built that team and spent what we're spending now when Harry Kane was at the club. We wouldn't be sitting there thinking, we need a top-class striker. We would have a top-class striker with a brilliant team around him. So for me, give the club a little bit of credit, but also at the same time, I'm still frustrated that we've let top players like Harry Kane leave and never really sort of replaced him and never really built the team around him, despite the fact that ever since we built that stadium, we were sort of sold that promise. We're going to build this brilliant football competitive team. It's going to compete on all fronts. I've been saying that for years now. It's taken for us to finish 17th twice and survive on the last day of the season to really wake this club up a little bit and to get them to actually put their money where their mouth is and build a proper team. So give them a little bit of credit, but not a huge amount just yet.
Who do you think we're going to get in for the left and striker? Have you got some preferred choices there, or some realistic choices?
I'd like to think we can get Savinho, and I think it'd be a great signing. I'd like to think we can get him. Talks have slowed down. That worries me a little bit. It's slowed right down at the moment. And we'll see what happens after the World Cup. Probably that's when talks are likely to resume. But yeah, I think Savinho would be ideal for me.
Could be. It could be that we're hedging our bets again, a bit, and obviously looking at other options. Seems City aren't particularly, quick or keen to kind of, get something agreed for Savinho, but maybe we're trying to, look at other options as well, maybe to put a bit of pressure on. I know we've been here in Germany. We've been linked with a young player, the Cologne FC Cologne, young German international El Mala.
Yes, El Mala.
Dustin's a fan. I'm a fan. He's really good. He's only 18, or he might be 19 now. He's young. He's played about 50 Bundesliga games.
Never heard of him.
Not sure if he's maybe too raw or too young, maybe for the Derby, to kind of bring him in as a, let's say, a realistic starter on the left. But yeah, I would definitely take him. He'd be available for probably 45, 50 million. Savinho is probably still more of a... Yeah, I know a lot of people as well have got question marks about Savinho, but he's at least got experience in the Premier League. And he's quite robust, isn't he, as well? We have been linked with this El Mala, though, and I've seen more reports in Germany today on Antonio Nusa as well from Leipzig, obviously a Norwegian winger who almost moved to Brentford a couple of seasons ago. And I think we were in for him, weren't we, as well, kind of? Or we had a bid accepted and then Brentford kind of trumped us on him and then he failed a medical. But there's options out there, right? So we've bearing in mind we've signed 6 players, or is it 7 now? Whatever it is, and it's not even the end of the first week of July. There's potential for a lot of surprises probably still to happen as well. Dustin, on your side, and we'll probably finish on this now, I would say, what's your feeling about the remaining priorities in the squad, and do you have some preferred players that you would love us to go out and get?
So I think I'll take the first question you had initially, which was, do we give ENIC a pass for this transfer window? And I think that it's a bit of a complex question because at this point we still don't know we still don't know whether it was Levy or whether it was ENIC, right? ENIC are trying their very best to make it out like it's Levy the entire time, but we had that winter window where they still tried to tell us that, we don't want to make stress purchases, and they've run out of excuses. So I think they're splashing the cash now because after 2 17th place seasons in a row, and they're out of excuses. We have all those mafia Twitter posts about get Vinay and Lange out of my club, right? And I think that they are just more keenly aware that they've run out of excuses, and they needed something to appease the fans. They needed to put gladiators into the arena so that the fans wouldn't go and cut off their heads and hang them in the street. That being said, they've splashed out the cash for Roberto De Zerbi. I know that De Zerbi saved us from relegation, and for that reason a lot of people are eternally grateful, and we should let him do all the signings. I think that there's a balanced view to take on this, which is there are some reasons why clubs don't give managers all of the control, and I think that it depends very much on one person's idea of what the priorities are. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. I think that it's great that we finally have a manager that knows how to play football. We're finally signing the right profile of players, where we previously signed players based on would they make the club a profit in the long term. So these are good signings. I don't think there's anything wrong with the business we've done so far. But I think that when you have a manager that has a reputation for being more short-term, hasn't lasted very long in the jobs that he's had, tends to fall out with the hierarchy, there is a slight danger that if you sign everything based on the manager and then he walks out of the door, you then have to make sure you sign a manager that can use the players that he signed, and the club has never been good at that. In fact, the reason that we've been as bad as we are is that we sign one style of manager and it doesn't work out, and we go, well, let's not sign a manager like that again, and then we sign a different kind of manager, and then we have like 2 years of transition where Conte's players can't play Ange ball, and then we bomb all of those players out, and then we sign players for Ange, and then we go to Thomas Frank, right? And then that's the managerial flux that we have. So I think that I don't have faith in the club to. I like De Zerbi to stay, but if he goes, are we going to sign the right manager to take over those players is a different question. So I know we don't want to think about this right now, but this can come back to bite us, and we've already seen when a manager signs very specifically for the short term, then things happen to the long term. We lose Vuskovic, Bergvall once out, those things.
Yep.
So there are trade-offs to this. That said, I think we're sick of like signing for the future and signing club signings that are good for value. So it's let's try this approach. We've not tried it before, clearly, and I think that if we do sort out left wing and striker, that will help. I think it doesn't help that the striker market is very bad right now, and there aren't. I think the striker market has always been bad, and it's a bit of a paradox because strikers are so expensive, but the modern game deprioritizes strikers so much that there are very few true strikers that score lots of goals. You can literally count them on like one, at most two hands. You've got Kane, you've got Lewandowski, you've got like Haaland. Basically, you go down the line and you look at strikers available, like you're like looking at Vlahovic as something that's worth signing. But why? Vlahovic hasn't been good for years. If there was like a striker that I think would actually improve us and would actually be a great goal scorer, it's unaffordable. It's Osimhen, but I think Junior Kroupi is a
sorry,
decent.
Dustin.
Yeah.
Is the unaffordable?
I think it's a wages problem. I don't think it's a transfer problem. I think it's a wages problem, and I think that for Osimhen it's a wages problem. But I also don't know whether I've heard conflicting things about personality, which is Osimhen and De Zerbi could be a fiery combination and they could fall out with each other. So that's the other thing as well. But from an ability perspective, the only player that isn't already playing for a huge club, and Galatasaray is a huge club, but the only player that's not playing in the top 5 European leagues that would actually be of that level is Osimhen, in my opinion. Junior Kroupi's not a bad option. Lancashire, okay. We have who's our academy player that wants to come back? He's in Netherlands now. Not Scarlet, the other one.
Divine.
Not Divine.
Striker? Melia?
Troy Parrott.
Parrott.
Yeah, he wants to come back, stuff like that. I don't see any of these options as being particularly exciting, because I think that the truth is the goal scoring striker is kind of like a thing of the past, and the striker is more of like a link up player, and it's more because strikers don't have the space, and very few of them have the quality like Kane to score consistently with the lack of space. So what's happening is the striker is like more of like a gravity well that sucks defenders into him and gives spaces for box crashing midfielders, wingers, and fullbacks to score goals. So that you find very few like true number 9s now, because the game has changed that a true number 9 is normally wasted unless he can do things like Kane does, which is drop deep and then arrive late because he's got great timing. But there are very few true number 9s left, and they're all very overvalued. So I think that get a decent enough striker, and then left wing is really important. So for left wing, I think that We've spoken about Almala. We've spoken about some of the options. There's Gots as well. Then there's Rafa Leao. So there are some options there, but frankly, I'm not sure who we could necessarily go for that represents like the best quality. So like for the strikers that for the left wingers that are available, right? There's
We've just got it on the screen now.
yeah. What do you guys think of what's here? Okay, Kvaratskhelia would be a dream, but you know he's not leaving PSG to come here. Yedits as well, right? But if you look at what's available, Anthony Gordon's just left. Cody Gakpo, if he played for his club teams the way he plays for Netherlands, maybe. But yeah, Rafa Leao's there, Almala, and then Nico Williams. What's happened with Nico Williams?
Weird. So
Yeah.
weird. You don't hear anything about him anymore, do you? Like even in like Champions
Vlahovic-
League and stuff.
Vlahovic is on a free, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would really like Alex Baena actually. Alex Baena is a really good option. But I don't know whether his age profile is right. I don't know what his wages would be. But of the players here, like Elmala is good, but I'm not sure if it will translate. That's the problem.
He's too raw, I think.
I think so. And this kind of thing I saw, right, when we signed Randall Kolo Muani, like, you know, his YouTube reels look great, but I just kept looking at what he was doing. I was like, you can't get away with anything that you're doing in the Premier League. So much of what RKM was doing well, I was like, it will not translate to the Premier League. So when I look at these players, I'm looking at like not what they're doing in their leagues, but I'm like, is that bad goalkeeping? Is that bad defending? And for a lot of players that don't play in the league, a lot of it is you having to kind of figure out in your mind, would this player still be able to do this in the Prem? And sometimes that's a very difficult question to answer. But basically, of these players, I would say that Liao is kind of a good option. That is, like, I think that even though he hasn't played the league, I think he would do well.
He's achievable as well, I think, right? He's realistic. Like you could
I
go
think
and
so.
get him.
I think he's realistic. So I think that if ideally you get two, right? You get like someone that is peak age, like, you know, 24 to 27, and then you get Elmala.
And we sell or loan him out.
So I think the biggest problem we have right now is because we don't have Europe. So we don't have enough minutes to give around. So I think the realistic thing is you sign one this season, and then if you have Europe next season, you sign the other. From a long-term squad building perspective. From the short-term squad building perspective, it's a blessing and a curse not having Europe. Not having Europe means that you don't need to do the full rebuild this season because you don't have as many games to give out. And it means that you don't suffer as much if you can't do your full rebuild in one season. But it also means that there are targets that if you sign them, you wouldn't have the minutes to give them to, like, you know, either bid in, things like that. So they would have to be signed, and then they would have to hit the ground running, which is difficult. And the thing about City, that the reason City are so successful is they can sign players and let them bid in for 2.5 seasons, and no other club can afford to do things like that with the wages on the books. So a slight blessing in disguise is we may have a Leicester season where they almost got relegated, then won the Prem the next season. If we get the right signings in, I think that's why we've gone for Prem proven, because we can hit the ground running. They don't have to learn the pace of the league. They will know what it is. But I think that, you know, constantly signing from the Prem is not necessarily a good long-term thing as well, because they might know the league, but, you know, they can be shaped by it, which is they don't try things that they've never tried in the Prem. Sometimes that's a good thing when you have really talented players, and it's also very inflated valuations, and you end up spending a lot more money. So short term, I think that's fine, but I think next season, if we have Europe, then we start looking at more exotic signings.
So I have just one more question on that, actually. Bearing in mind we don't have Europe next season, and really it's for us first real season under the Zerbi, obviously building this team, and getting back into Europe, right? Getting back to the top. Because the striker market is so poor at the moment, so difficult, so long as we would sign a really top class left winger, let's say like a Leao, or even if it is a Savinho, someone on that level, right? Would you be happy to go into, like I say happy, could you stomach going into the season with Solanke and maybe a Lancashire as our striking options in the centre, bearing in mind we haven't got Europe and bearing in mind we kind of need to get back there?
Yes, because
if we go and buy in the summer,
you've got more creativity in the midfield, Phil. And Kudus is a prime example that wingers can score goals, and Kudus scored a couple before becoming injured. So yeah, if you've got that back up there and the quality in Savinho on the left and then Kudus on the right, then yeah, I'd happily grin and bear Solanke for the time being. Obviously, with the given goal was potentially from Savinho and Kudus. So yeah, I would.
To be fair, if Solanke, I say if he stays fit like he always was before he joined Tottenham, right? I don't think he didn't miss a game, did he? Like when he was at Bournemouth or something for like 5 years or something, and then obviously he got injured when he joined us. But if he's fully fit, isn't there still an argument that Solanke in a De Zerbi team with the creative players around and his presence up front could actually still be pretty damn good?
I'll have to agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I spoke when I was on the podcast previously with Harry, and I mentioned Dom Solanke, and I said actually, I think Dom Solanke's just been really, really unlucky in a Spurs shirt, and I still actually have a fair bit of hope that he will come good. You just have to look at what he was doing at Bournemouth to see there's a top player there who can do it in the Premier League. I think under Ange just had him spending 90 minutes pressing, just constantly chasing down fullbacks, chasing down the goalkeeper, and just wore him out. And the season just gone, he's been hit with so many injuries and just got really bad luck. There was a time halfway through the season where he did come back fresh off injury, scored a couple of goals and started looking sharp again, then got injured again. So I still sort of, I as much as I want us to bring in a new goal scorer, and I think we do need a goal scorer, I still do have a little bit of faith in Dom Solanke. I just think he's been really unlucky. Richarlison, for me, I think it's time for Richarlison to move on. He's been too inconsistent, a little bit injury prone. Still never really got up and running properly for Tottenham in the 3-4 years that he's been with us. So I wouldn't be sort of overly disappointed to see the back of Richarlison, but I do think we keep Dom Solanke and we do play him a little bit more. And if he can stay fit, I still got faith in Dom Solanke, but I do think we need to bring in another striker. Just quickly, one last name that's not been mentioned, who I think has been really impressive in the World Cup, is Balogun. I know there's an Arsenal link there, and a lot of people are going to say, don't go anywhere near him, but I actually think he's looked quite sharp, and he's still relatively young. I think he's, 24, 25? Yeah. That could be an outside shout.
He has looked good. Yeah, he's looked good. I do have an automatic, aversion to him, but he does look good. I think he would work well in a De Zerbi team, to be honest, as well. Very hard working. Mark, do you think we're definitely going to get rid of Richarlison though?
I don't know if
we're all kind of saying we'd all like to move on Richarlison, wouldn't we? I think pretty much the whole fan base in an ideal world would be moving him on. But is it a given though? I mean, we haven't really heard that many rumours about him. He's not the World Cup either. Can he still
until we sign a striker? I think if we sign a striker, I do think his days at the club are numbered. But by the looks of it, in terms of our focus shifting from defence to midfield and now looking at strikers on the market, I do think there's a high possibility that he does move on, to be honest.
Yeah, it seems that what we've done, or what De Zerbi's done, is when we've told a player that they're definitely not in our plans, they've been quite clear about it, and then obviously the agent goes to work. In Richarlison's case, it doesn't sound like there's that much agent activity going on, but then I think we also know that Richarlison's quite happy in London, isn't he? He's on quite a nice contract with us. Didn't he reject Saudi a couple of times, I think, and even a return to Brazil? I think he rejected.
I think if Everton put in a solid offer for him, I think he'd take it. He's still
Everton
got
would be the dream.
Everton.
Yeah, that'd be a good move for all parties, wouldn't it? Probably. Fans love him there still, don't they? He's held in really, really high regard there.
Yep, it's got a good relationship there still.
What are you bringing up here, Dustin? What you got on there? Is this a striker comparison? Or are you just playing around? I think you're a mute. You're a mute. Dustin, you're a mute.
I think the main strikers we'd be looking at are like target men or false nines. I don't think that De Zerbi is necessarily looking for poachers, right? So if you're looking at target men, that's kind of like what we have here, which is I've gone top 5 leagues, but I've added Super League so that Osman is there. But yeah, this is essentially the options that we're looking at, which is okay, I guess. Then if we go false 9, these are the options that fit that better, right? So you can see PSG have 3 of them. That's why they're champions of Europe.
Just a quick one on Marmoush. Like, do you guys see him like more as a left winger or more as a striker in the De Zerbi system?
Striker, 100%.
Yeah.
Striker.
Okay. Do you think he's... Okay, maybe a stupid question from my side, but do you think as a striker, as a goal scorer, or as maybe an assist maker, like in terms of being able to, you know, if there's still balls played in, that maybe he might need to hold stuff up? Is he the right profile for us as a striker in that system? Because he's a completely different player to Solanke, let's say.
The problem is, Phil, you've got Richarlison and Solanke who both hold the ball up. They're both very good at holding the ball up. They're not very good at scoring goals. We've always had strikers pretty much like Peter Crouch. I wouldn't say Berbatov, because Berbatov was a prolific goal scorer, but in what we've got now, Solanke and Richarlison, they're more of a hold the ball up rather than an actual, you know, attacking the goal sort of threat for me, really. Whereas Marmoush, I think, yeah, he can hold the ball up, but I think he's also got a good shot on him as well compared to Solanke and Richarlison. You'll very rarely see Solanke or Richarlison try and hit a strike from 25-30 yards out, whereas Marmoush does and would.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. It's a good point. Just I saw Marmoush, you know, for a whole season here at Frankfurt, and he came from nowhere, pretty much. You know, in that season, I think Frankfurt signed him on a free transfer, and he was played mainly off the left originally, and then he kind of moved inside. I would like us to sign Marmoush, but I don't know. There's a part of me. There's a part of, maybe I don't know why. Maybe I'm stupid, but there's a part of me that's getting kind of Moani vibes in terms of him.
I wouldn't say that, Phil.
Not being good enough on duration. That might sound stupid because obviously I know he's scored some goals.
I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I don't know. I think Carlo Moani was lazy to a degree. I don't think Marmoush has got that in him, really.
It's just Marmoush has been quite inconsistent in his career.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that for the money that we would invest in someone like Marmoush, whether he's really the player that we need. That's an open statement, open question from my side. I'm not saying no. I mean, at the end of the day, if we've got the opportunity to sign him, and we get him for. Realistically, we're probably not paying huge money for him, are we? For him, 50 million. I don't think his value hasn't gone up since joining.
I think City would want about 65-70 million for him if it's City. Personally, I don't think we'd get him for 50.
I don't know.
Phil, what's your impression of Undav from Stuttgart?
I see him as a bit of a Richarlison kind of player from what I've seen of him in the Bundesliga and for Germany. He's also old. I think he's 29, 30. Probably, I don't know how many years contract he's got left at Stuttgart, but I wouldn't be a fan of signing him. I'd rather, if it was just a direct comparison, also based on age and everything else, I'd rather we would sign like a Guirassy as a comparison to him. Just as a straight kind of a, different kind of player. Undav has performed quite well for Germany. He wasn't very good in the last game for Germany, but then no one was really, were they? But he's obviously done very well coming off the bench for Germany, and he had a good season for Stuttgart. But I don't think he's a hard worker. I wouldn't.
You're really struggling to find good things to say.
Nah, I'm not psyched about him. I'd rather, and I heard your concerns about Vlahovic as well before, by the way. But if it was a direct choice, I'd rather take a punt on Vlahovic.
Vlahovic is doing quite well in these like in this scatter plot, right? So this is created own shot and non-penalty XG. So the outliers or the best 20% are all these out here, and then this is where our strikers sit. So there's a lot of room for improvement.
I mean, also he's on there. I think just below. I know again a lot of people are like Moise Kean. No, whatever. I'm not a Moise Kean fanboy, but personally, Italian, De Zerbi's got some kind of connection with him. If he was an option, and it was like, well, he's going to come in, and he's probably not going to be like, he's not going to be the striker for us if we qualify for the Champions League again, right? Maybe next summer or after. But if we got him on a decent price, I wouldn't say no, to be honest, to Moise Kean, personally. But,
are there any other strikers that you guys are thinking of that I can just add to this? I've added Guirassy.
Harry Kane. I know it's not realistic, but the kind of striker that I would have really liked us to have signed, or would still like us to sign, would be a striker in the mould of a Sesko. That kind of striker.
It's got a funny E, doesn't it?
Yeah. But that's
what league is he in?
He's a Man U, isn't he?
Why can't I find it?
But that kind of striker, I would have liked to have signed him, when we were linked with him. I know he didn't set the world on fire overall last season, but wouldn't be the first time that a striker coming into the Premier League hasn't. There's Kretovic actually. Like, I don't know much about Kretovic.
What league does he play in?
Nick Kretovic and Nikola or Kristovic.
He's already on there.
What's his full name?
This one? Yeah. Atalanta? Is he from Atalanta?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's here. He's top for non-penalty XG.
Kristovic, Nikola Kristovic, Montenegrin, 26 years old. Actually, don't know him. I don't know much about him. He's got very good stats.
Yep. But stats aren't everything. He says while referring to them.
Who did De Zerbi have, like, at Marseille as his striking options? Well, I guess Greenwood was more of a winger. What was he, a striker? I don't know. We don't want to talk about him anyways.
Might end up signing him at some point.
That won't happen.
Imagine the culture war when that happens.
Is there anything else, guys, from anyone on the panel that you want to just shout out, or anything else that we haven't talked about that you quickly want to bring to the table? About any players or any contract extensions? Anything else I've missed? We've discussed a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, I also wanted to bring this up, which is kind of the profiles that we have now with the new signings, and you can see. I know it's hard to tell with so many overlapping, but if you look from Fernandes and Tonali and look at where they are better than our existing squad, so that's blue and pinkish, right? And you can see that, you know, forward passes, dual percentage, progressive passes are the main areas that they fill out. And when Xavi Simons is back, we have the key passes and the carrying. And you can see how much better they are compared to the rest of our squad at those. Yeah.
Possession 1, Jules 1. So just powerhouses that are going forward as well. Oh, I'm so excited. So excited. Personally, I find it much more interesting talking about Tottenham and looking at our transfers than following the World Cup, to be honest. But then I've kind of fallen out of love with international football from a personal perspective over the years. I know that everyone hasn't. Is anyone else similar, or am I the
How are you
out?
how are you finding quarters now that we have hydration breaks and ads?
Go on, Mark, you answer that one.
Games gone.
Yeah, the game has gone, isn't it? It's gone to America. That's the problem. Splitting the game to quarters and having commercial breaks. Yeah, that's definitely an American thing. Yeah, I feel the same about the World Cup. I don't get nowhere near as excited when England scores compared to when Tottenham score. Spurs score, I'm jumping up and down all over the place, limbs everywhere. But when England score, I'm like, yeah, good goal, nice one. I just
like clapping.
I don't know, the passion just isn't nowhere near the same, is it? And plus, England just bore me to death at the moment.
Even after the last two that Kane scored?
Yeah, the winner he scored the other day, I got a little bit of reaction, jumped up off my chair, but that's probably the first time for many years I've actually got quite excited about England scoring goals.
You were throwing your beer in the box park?
No, not quite. It's just, yeah, when Spurs score, you know, that means the world to me. But when England score, it's never the same, is it? Never quite the same.
If that's the case, you've had a miserable season, because I can count on one hand the number of times I watched the Spurs game this season and actually had something to cheer about.
Yeah, it's been a tough season. Although the last game, being in the stadium for that was different type of excitement. It was more relief than anything, but great moment to be a part of, though, for sure.
I think that's that scene of De Zerbi looking at the south stand is his Pochettino looking at the screen moment. And it's hoping that, you know, whatever happens, we don't fuck this one up.
It was similar to Poch when he on the last day at the last match at White Hart Lane. You know, when the rainbow came out, and he was there, wasn't he? And he was just looking around and he was just nodding like this, like kind of thing. You know, come on, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this.
The proud dad vibes.
Patrick Schick, he'd be an interesting kind of striker. False 9. He's getting on. He's probably 29, 30, but he's probably gettable. He's at Leverkusen. From a player profile, he'd be interesting. But I don't know.
Bring back Roberto Soldado, mate.
Oh God.
But I think left wing really needs to be sorted out. We cannot
bring back Soldado as a striker and bring back Eric Dyer in the centre of defence, mate. That'd be the team sorted. Then, mate. I'll be over the moon with that. What an awful player, Dyer. Honestly, don't get me started on Dyer. Honestly.
Well, given his World Cup performances, bring back Davinson Sanchez apparently.
Oh, baller! Absolutely, yeah. Jan Vertonghen, yeah. Get the crew back together, boys. Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld, yeah. Didier Zakora, Pascal Chimbonda. I'm a massive fan of Pascal Chimbonda.
Benoit Sokoto, man, get him back from the porn studio.
Disco Benny. Well, look, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up now. We've been going for pretty much 2 hours, probably. Is that right? Yeah, just over 2 hours. So, thanks to everyone who's come on tonight. I think we've had some good discussions around a lot of good topics. Obviously, the main ones being the two bombers. this week. Long may it continue. I think everyone's going to be probably scrolling on X straight after this, aren't they, to catch up on the Kroupi rumours.
How do you guys feel about Kroupi?
I'll
I
be
love
happy
him.
with it.
Excited.
He's amazing. He's got such a ceiling. He's good enough now already, but
Yep.
you know, it's no surprise that PSG are, you know, kind of linked in that, right? Whether they buy him though, I don't know. Like, do they have space even really to give him any game time, or would they buy him?
They saw Ramos, right? So
True. Yeah. He's really good though. Like Bournemouth, like with him, Bournemouth scouted him, and they scouted that Ryan, the Brazilian guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mate, Bournemouth scouting is unbelievable. It's so good.
is it Pinto there, the sporting director?
I think
is it
so,
Pinto?
yeah.
Portuguese, yeah.
oh, I forgot. One thing we really need to sort out: medical department. There's no point signing all these players. Like, we literally signed Solanke, no injury problems, and now, you know, we really need to sort out medical department.
Well said, Dustin. I'm glad you mentioned it, because we do. There's a conspiracy theory there. I'm telling you, we've got a gooner in the back room or something. I'm telling you.
So apparently there's a person on X that is a physio, or like she works with I think it might be a League One club, but she said that one of the problems with our injuries is that there's lack of communication between the medical staff and the coaching teams. So they'll bring a player back, but like what kind of exertion he's allowed to do apparently hasn't been communicated well, and there are times that players go in and start doing training that the medical team has said they're not ready for. And when Maddison had the partial tear, the other comment she had was that he came back and played after the partial tear way too early, and then, you know, he tore his hamstring in Korea. So it's a combination of like that. There are things that are unlucky, and there are things that we're not doing right, and those are some of the things that we're not doing right.
To caveat that on the overhaul, one of the first things that Vinay did when he joined the club was to hire that guy from the Man City group as well. So not Rafi Mersden, you know, this new football operations negotiator, but Dan Levenden. So he's our new head of performance, or director of performance, and he was serving his notice period, gardening leave, and I think he only joined in March this season, so a couple of months ago. But he is basically heading up all of the, you know, medical side of things and everything that comes around that, medical nutrition. And I think he's already hired 2 new people who are kind of coming in now for the new season. So obviously we hope that it improves, but to caveat that whole thing, like, we have started, you know, making moves on that front. So let's hope that that he does it. I think before he was at City Group, Dan Levenden was at the Lawn Tennis Association. He's been in sport anyways his whole career, basically heading up, you know, treatment of players and rehabilitation and all that kind of stuff. So I guess it can only get better, right? That's the theory, anyways.
So I've got the Twitter account up for that part on the screen, if you can share that.
Oh, yeah, hang on.
Yeah. So the fact that there was a partial tear and the return was too fast, most of the time it should be 3 to 6 months, but he returned way too fast after that.
You mean from his initial tear when he was injured for Europa League and stuff, like the season before, and then
Correct.
he came back in pre-season and
Yeah.
Terrible, isn't it? Terrible.
Yeah.
Amateur.
And then there's stuff around like Kuda's injury as well, so yeah.
Well, it can only get better. It can only get better. I would like to say thanks to all of our viewers tonight. We've had a lot of people tuning in and watching us. As I said, we've gone for a good 2-hour stretch tonight. We've had the Bombers. It's all looking positive. Just thanks to all of our guests as well who've been on the panel tonight. Just quickly go around. You can just quickly say again what you're focused on, online on social media and stuff, and where people can find you. So yeah, kick us off, Dustin.
Yep, you can find me. I'm terrible at spelling it, so it's over here. You can find me there on X, and then that's a YouTube playlist link as well. Haven't been doing too much stuff now because I am dealing with my daughter's chronic stomach pain, which is a nerve problem. So haven't been doing any content so far. But when she's on the mend, then I'll have a bit more time.
Great. I hope she gets better soon. And yeah, just a second that as well, Dustin, as you saw today with his charts as well, like, is the oracle of football analysis at the moment. So yeah, please go and follow him. I think you've done some interesting videos with Chris Cowlin as well, haven't you, over the last few months as well?
Yeah, I did one analyzing all of Thomas Frank's press conferences, and when is he using data to deflect, and then when is he ignoring or like not mentioning data to defend bad performances. So that I think that one was quite popular.
Thank you very much. We'll see you again soon. On to you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks guys. Really enjoyed this evening. Some good chats there. Can find me on Tottenham Days on Instagram and TikTok as well. Capturing match days and N17 and all of the emotions that come with being a Spurs fan. But yeah, thank you very much. Enjoyed the chat, and take care, everyone.
Great. Thanks for being on, Mark. Finishing off with you, Trav.
Yeah, great to be back on again. Yeah, I had to do it. Yeah, I'm well excited. Yeah, great to be back on tonight, Phil. Thank you so much for having me back on and taking the steps of Harry Wise at his awards night. Yeah, love being on these shows. It's been a good while, to be fair, but my 1-year-old daughter is running the show at the moment, so I don't really get a chance to really breathe for 30 seconds, let alone get on these podcasts. So, yeah, great to be back on, and obviously talking all things Tottenham. And also, Dustin, your analyses are absolutely superb to read, and I really hope your daughter gets well soon, my friend. Mark, great to meet you before. I don't think we've met on pods before, so yeah, also great to meet you. We'll link up on X. I am also on LinkedIn, where I do a lot of work for men's mental health. Me and Harry will be doing our own pod soon on men's mental health at some point. I don't know when that'll be, but it will be soon, hopefully. I know Harry's a very busy boy at the moment, but that will be very much on the agenda. And obviously, find me on X at officialcaster.
Nice one, Trav. Good to have you on again. Yeah, and I'd just like to offer my thanks to Harry as well for having me on as a guest, but also for just giving me the privilege of hosting a show tonight. And I hope that the awards ceremony went well. And look, and all of the viewers watching, Harry is such a shining light, online with all of the content that, Harry and also his team as well, including, Willsey, people like that, are creating on a consistent basis, not just these pods, but also, updates, shorts, little things as well. All of the work that Harry does, for autism and for the neurodivergent community, absolutely amazing. Juggling college and everything as well. So big shout out. If you guys want to just check me out online as well, you can go on to @Frankfurt Spurs. I tweet mainly about Tottenham, obviously, but also about the Bundesliga. I live in Frankfurt here in Germany, and do go and watch the Bundesliga a lot, including Eintracht Frankfurt here. I've been threatening for about a year now to actually properly get down and dirty and do some shows and some proper analysis on young talent in Germany, up and coming talent in the youth systems here.
You should be scouting for us.
Yeah,
TK would be here if not for you.
You know what? I can't remember his name, but I've connected with the German lead scout who covers the Germany, Switzerland, Austria region, and I've been chasing him to meet him. So I'm gonna try.
Have him on the show.
I can do it unofficially, anyways, right? But yeah, I'm gonna try and get him on the show. But there is going to be some Bundesliga content coming for the upcoming season as well. But yeah, obviously I'm on here on Harry's show. I'm more regularly on a different pod, actually, on Project Spurs, which is a new pod which we started off this year together with Gary Ward, who some of you guys might have seen online.
Is that Stubbsy as well, Phil?
Yeah, Cal.
Yeah,
Callum,
Cal.
Stubbsy and that. And, you know, we're getting some good traction now. I think Gary was on Last Word of Spurs this week as well. So, you know, we're doing really well. We're friends of the show, right? We've got like, we kind of do little, what's the word? We lend people each way and stuff. So all you guys, if you want to check us out, check us out. We always come and check out and support Harry as well on Scarfey's Spurs Talk, which is also a fantastic show. And if anyone ever wants to come onto Project Spurs as well, then just, you know, give us a shout as well, because we're always keen to get new guests on. But yeah, guys, it's great to have you on. It's been a really good show tonight. And yeah, let the good times keep rolling. Let the signings keep rolling. Let's get up towards double figures. Let's get Kroupi, man. Come on, let's do this. But anyways,
Come on.
stay positive. Stay positive. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you
And we'll
Spurs.
see everyone soon, yeah? See you.
In a
Good
bit,
night.
boys. Ta-da.
Bye.